week, the rock and roll week that was. Well, it certainly rocked to the country's heartbeat, but even more importantly and possibly worse, we rolled with the punches. And this was a week of brutal punches. And I'm sure a lot of you, including myself and many others, I'm sure, are feeling a little unsure as to how we look at the way forward. What is the way forward? How do we reconcile ourselves to the activities that we've seen over the past week? So on the line with us, we've got Jan Hofmeyr. He heads up the Policy and Analysis Program at the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation. And the thing that they do, which I really think is interesting, one of their strategic objectives is that divided communities are engaged in dialogue to overcome sources of conflict. And I'm interested in that. Building an inclusive societal program. Jan, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Good morning, Michelle.
Jan, I want to know, did you give a Valentine's rose or possibly card to the man or woman of your dreams, or perhaps someone that you love?
Michelle, my two girls are waiting outside for me in the car, so I'm on my way.
Well, I hope you've got roses. Yeah, they're listening as we speak. So, ladies, if you are listening, he has got roses. Even I know he's got roses, and he's got red velvet cupcakes for you as well. Jan, we want to talk to you today, and we've been chatting about it. We chatted about it yesterday on the team. I think a lot of people in South Africa are feeling completely shattered by the activities of this week, by what happened at SoNA. And then, of course, we get the newspaper today, the Saturday Star, and the headline is, "Prepare for a sequel, politicians full of war talk, setting the scene for a repeat performance in Parliament." And I suppose for people like you and me and many people, this just feels like another stomach blow.
Yeah, Michelle, I think for most South Africans it has really been a disillusioning experience, and I say that because I think since 1994 South Africa has really projected itself as a moral bastion and one that has overcome adversity through dialogue and consensus seeking, and this has also been part of brand South Africa for several years. There's the fact that we held up people like Madiba, people like Archbishop Desmond Tutu, as people that represent the values that we stand for as a society. And this is a narrative that we try to project towards the outside, but I think it's also something that we as South Africans internalized, or at least hope that is what we would become. And I think what we saw on Thursday evening really disillusioned us, and really I think also brought home the reality that we are a country that is a work in progress, that we are not yet where we should be, but that we should work towards those ideals.
You know, it is potentially that we are a work in progress. Do we take that as something positive and say, you know, for all the chaos that took place, the first moment of perfection, and this was in a very interesting article that was written by Ranjeni Munsami, where she said there was one perfect moment, which was when the National Assembly was sung. And at that moment, not the National Assembly, the National Anthem, and at that moment people came together. So are you saying that we should not be demoralized, or are you saying that actually we need to take a frickin' long, hard look at where we're going from here?
Of course, this is a very demoralizing experience. It was a very demoralizing experience for us as a nation, and it's a step back. But, you know, I think one also has to look back in history. Progress isn't always linear. You know, you always have to take a step back. Sometimes you learn through the crises that you have to go through, and you come out stronger on the other side. And we would really hope that this would be the case. But, you know, I agree with Ranjani's assessment as well. When we sing the national anthem, we sing it as South Africans, and we must also remember that this nation is bigger than the sum of its political parties. There's much more diversity in our society than just the ANC, the ESS, the DA, and the other parties that they are in Parliament. There are civil society organizations, there are cultural organizations. So we are the sum of that. We are not the totality of what's happened in Parliament this week. And as citizens, we also need to realize this and also put pressure on politicians who may be thinking that they or that the country revolves around them.
You know, I'm so glad you raised that, because that was what we were talking about earlier here in the studio, is that I suppose for myself, and maybe other people agree with me, I'm infuriated that the politicians can say they're preparing for war, there's war talk, we're going to take weapons into Parliament, etc. They don't represent us when they talk like that, whoever they are, and it doesn't matter which political party it is. As you say, that we are not the sum of just that kind of politics. We are an extraordinary nation of people, and I'm so fortunate I get to speak to absolutely extraordinary people every single week. And I feel completely frustrated. It virtually brings me to tears, because I feel like those voices are no longer being heard in the bigger picture. If the front page of the newspaper says, prepare for a sequel, this is war talk, then I say, what about the fantastic people that are there? How do they get heard?
I think unfortunately it is also the case that it's the bad news that very often makes the headlines. And it kind of sometimes makes us question ourselves whether the reality that we perceive on the ground is actually the reality. But I think we also need to go by what we feel and what we see sort of every day around us. And of course, this has attracted a lot of media attention, not only in South Africa, but also abroad. But I think we have to work also with what we have immediately around us, the relationships that we have as South Africans. And I think, just in that vein, it is also necessary to say that as South Africans, we always also have to work hard on that interpersonal relationships, because as you know, we are also a country that is still very fragmented. And we do still sort of carry some of the scars of the past in our country. So that is something that we cannot overlook, and we cannot only blame politicians for that, because as citizens we also have agency, we also have responsibility towards the country, and it also is really incumbent on us to do all in our power to ensure that this country works for us.
You know, I think you've hit the nail on the head. So, give us some advice for people like me, people like Tsepo, Monique, Nico, Babalwa. I mean, we represent like this amazing, diverse country here in the studio. The way forward for us as active citizens to look at transformation and relationships, to stop, as our speaker last week said, this silencing of conscience, to stop othering the other. What advice would you give us as we go forward? Give us something positive to, and I'm not trying to be Pollyanna-ish, but something really positive for us to work with.
It's very difficult to say, but I think firstly, one must say, we must accept diversity in our society. We are a diverse nation, politically, culturally, linguistically. We have to accept that, and we also have to treasure the fact that we've got that diversity. We have to celebrate that and not allow it to become schisms within our society. And I think the second one is really humility, to work together in a humble spirit as South Africans to build a nation together. Because as we've just discussed, there is so much positive in this country to celebrate. That pessimism is not the best and most constructive way of approaching this crisis that we've seen this week, but also going forward.
Jan Hofmeyr, a delight to speak to you. Thank you for being so positive. And also, good luck, because you're going to get to that car with 2 girls, and I know you don't have red velvet cupcakes. All I can say is good luck, because they're going to be clamoring for those red velvet cupcakes. Jan Hofmeyr, thank you so much for joining us, the head of the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation, their policy and analysis program. And we want to put put forward that there is a common ground, that we are a diverse nation, that we are not represented only by the politicians in this country. And I want to know what your take on it is. You know, let's look at our relationships, our interpersonal relationships. Look at transforming. Speak to someone that you don't know about. Just try and find out a little bit more about them. It may be different. You might think it's like kissing devils on the cheek, but I'll tell you what, it's a whole different way of engaging in the world.